Hey everyone, I've been seeing lots of posts about IDS lately, Information Delivery Specifications, and it's all great stuff. I just wanted to add to it and show a human readable approach that is fitting into a real world project workflow. So, using task information delivery planning and master information delivery planning combined with your information delivery specifications, all of it together. In this quick demo, I'll hopefully show you how Planoly makes it super simple to build across all of the different disciplines and all of the different milestones within a project, and even check them in the verify module. But you can export a filtered set of requirements that can go to any other application. Let's jump in. Let's take a look. Okay, so the first thing that we'll want to do is go to planoly.com. And if you don't have an account already, you can hit the join free button and hopefully do everything that I'm doing in this example as well. I'm going to hit login because I have an account already. And then I'm going to create a completely new project, and I'm simply going to choose the scope and the verify. These two modules to be able to define specifically the requirements and then also check for project compliance as well. We could use the library. If you've got a project, you've done it before, or you've got something that you want to just copy from or parts of, you could do that. Also, if you have an information delivery specification as well, you can drag and drop it in here. Massive upgrades to this. We're ingesting pretty much anybody's IDS file now. We've added a lot more flexibility to that import as well. If you're using Planoly for the first time, you might want to go to the project dashboard and connect up to the Building Smart Data Dictionary to make sure that you're using the right classification structures for your project, so that when you're in your project and you are creating line items, it's going to use the Building Smart Data Dictionary and search for the specifics that you're looking for. So I'm going to use a cavity wall climbing. We're going to do a climbing wall. Why not? And I'm going to make sure that the subtitles, the classifications, and the entity types are turned on, so we can see that this is an IFC wall, and we could describe it as well. I'm going to do that. Write a funny AEC description for a climbing wall. There we go. And when we add our requirements, we're adding them per milestone or project stage. We're going to have a number of these and group them into phases or parts of the project. This is important because you might have multiple different phases that you want to manage over. If we create a requirement for this climbing wall at this stage, at this milestone, open it, you can see this is the definition that I added, and we can go into a lot of detail, but the main thing we wanted to look at was the information requirements here. Maybe I'm going to need the material for our climbing wall, and you can see that we don't have any material properties in our project yet, but in the Building Smart Data Dictionary, we have 18, and then we can start to use that. Maybe the cover material on the climbing wall is important. So this gets added. Everything is tracked, and we can then jump in. Let me open this up and see. This is even linked to the Building Smart Data Dictionary now as well. So you can see what this cover material, what the property means, and we can see that it starts with any value, including empty. However, we can adjust that by coming into the properties palette at the bottom. Maybe we want to define a rule for this, and it could be anything like one of these comma-separated values if you've got a list of materials that you might need to be one of. But you could also define a rule based on AI. So we could say something like starts with MAT, ends for numbers, something like that. We can use the generate button to create this. Now it's generated a check for us. We didn't have to learn regular expression to do that. And this is going to be the way that it's evaluated. Once we've done this, that's it. So we've defined a row with the requirements. We've defined a task at a specific milestone, and we've said this is when we need that property required. We could even define, if I open this, what team is responsible. So maybe the manager for that, who is responsible even. When it's required, we could define dates for this as well and start to status it right the way through that process. However, what we can do is simply export this as a machine-readable information delivery specification, an IDS file. And if I click on the export and go to IDS specifications, and then simply we would choose the milestone to make sure that we've got the right one, and we would then hit the create, and now we've got an export, and there it is, simply really well defined, and we can see this is the pattern that we're using to evaluate it. It's got all of the links to the Building Smart Data Dictionary. It's got the details about the specification and so on. That's how simple it is to create it. You can also provide access to this file. We could even get a signature on this file, or we could just download it or share a public URL, make a public URL and share that with others. That's how quick and easy it is to create. And if you think about this overall, maybe you might have done this before. And if you use the Plannerly templates, there's a project example in here that we can start to just bring in certain parts. So maybe there's mechanical equipment that we really need, some detailed requirements. I've just brought this in. It's actually brought in all 3 milestones with the information required. And if I open up to see what we have, we can start to see that the asset information model requires specifically these as handover elements. And we need specific properties for these as well. So let me just add that. So we've got 3 elements with that requirement. And if I wanted to, I could see that this mechanical contractor that is responsible for it. Let me see how I would do that to just cut and slice this. The information delivery specification export, I would then choose the specific milestone, but then I could choose that team. And I could even choose which folders I wanted to select from. And I could give it a title and say, this is the mechanical IDS handover asset information model requirements. Let's see. And that's how quick it is to create. And if I open it, you can see it's filtered just for their requirements, all of the detailed requirements. Really, really, really quick. And I just wanted to show how that workflow, whether it's for one specification or whether it's for many of these different specifications that are required for many teams, and also over multiple milestones, how you can create them all in one environment and assign teams, and also export parts of that so that teams can use only parts that are relevant to them. And so you could export that and use that in other tools. You could also verify inside of Plannerly for the compliance of these. So if we had this climbing walls requirement, I could then upload the model or connect it to Autodesk Construction Cloud. Or if you've got a model in File Manager already, you can add that. Any one of about 70 different file formats, including Revit and IFC and a whole bunch of others. And then we're evaluating these requirements against them. A whole bunch more on that in many other videos, but collaboration is key. So including teams in this workflow and adding them for review, whether they're viewing or whether they have full management rights, is really much more collaborative than just sending a file. And then being able to filter that and use that export in the tool of their choice, or using Verify to manage that process, either simply just dragging cards around to show status and update, and or using the model verification process as well. Hopefully that's useful. We'd love to hear your thoughts. We're here to help.